Chapter 7. Second Betrayal. For a month, life returned to normal. Then, one Saturday, when I was in the backyard, I heard the phone ring, and my father walked out of the house a few minutes later. "Jimmy, a policeman named Detective Ryan was just on the phone, and he wants us to come down to the station tomorrow." I felt terror, and then clammy, and I'd never seen my father afraid. "He said rings were stolen, and someone picked your face out of the school pictures." Another burst of fear took my breath. As my father studied my face, I heard John's voice. "We stole them, Jimmy. You were here too. We stole the rings, so you better not say anything."
I never.
I stammered. "Tomorrow we're going to the police station, and we'll say someone has made a mistake. Go to your bedroom now." I laid on the bunk bed and thought about the police and crime in our neighborhood. Stony Island Avenue was a main thoroughfare into Chicago for travelers from the southern part of the United States. The street was filled with tiny motels where traveling salesmen would sleep overnight. The first motel to change was the Castaways, where the owner allowed a pimp to sell prostitutes for public consumption. Unfortunately for Miss Hope, the motel sat across the alley from where she lived, and she always planted flowers along the back fence. I wondered if she could garden because of the pimp at the Castaways Motel. I thought the coppers should be more concerned about actual crime than Larry Creep's stupid rings. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, especially about Miss Hope. It wasn't fair. My dad hated what was happening to the neighborhood too, and he didn't believe I was a thief. I felt we were on the same side for the first time in a while, but that quickly vanished when I remembered the whole situation. What about Larry Creep molesting me? Did they know about John? Was Larry Creep going to be at the police station? "We, Jimmy," John said. "You were here too. We stole the rings. No matter what, you have to say we were never here. They'd put us in jail. Besides, with what he did to you, he'll never report it." Larry Creep must have reported it after all. I returned to the house and saw my dad sitting in his chair, drinking whiskey and soda. I thought about saying something, but Larry's voice came into my head. "You're here because you want to be here, Jimmy. It's your fault. Your parents will blame you, and your father will love Joe more." I noticed Joe staring at me, and I wanted to tell him what was happening, but I didn't dare because Joe would use it against me. Then I thought about what Larry Creep had said. Everyone in the neighborhood probably knew that my parents pitted us kids against one another. I woke up Sunday morning to bright sunshine and birds chirping outside. I saw Joe sitting in an armchair reading the Sunday comics, and I wondered what it was like to be my father's favorite. Joe started teasing me about my shirt, so I smacked him, and we were wrestling on the living room floor when my dad came in. He grabbed me by the back of the shirt, flung me against the wall, and wagged his finger. "You're in enough trouble, mister. It's time to go." The drive to the police station was unbearably quiet, and I wanted to say it was not my fault it happened, but I heard the same voices in my head. John. "You were here too. They'll put us in jail." Dad. "It's a mistake. You were never there." Larry. "It's your fault. They'll blame you, and your father will love your brother Joe more." I looked over at my father. He was deep in thought, and I told myself that I would survive and was super hyper. Inside the door to the police station, we climbed high, wide steps to the main floor, and at the top of the stairs, I looked back down at the weathered door and had to fight the urge to run to freedom. We were in a large room that bustled with uniformed coppers, and across the aisle stood a tall copper who glanced up from the papers he was shuffling. "Can I help you, sir?" he yelled. We started to cross the aisle when another copper cut in front of us, hurrying a handcuffed man across the room.
No! Please don't do this to me!
But the scream was only inside my head. My father said, "We're here to see Detective Ryan." The cop swirled around and yelled at someone we couldn't see. "Hey, Petey! You seen Ryan? He's in room 3 waiting for some kid." The tall copper leaned over the desk and glared at me. then politely said to my father, "As you can see, we're a little crazy around here this morning. Every weirdo in town was out last night, and now they're all here." He motioned to a couple of chairs against the wall. "How about grabbing a seat while I get Detective Ryan for you?" We strolled back across the room, trying to avoid bumping into the crowds of people coming through. My father dug through his pockets for his smokes and lighter, and his hands shook as he lit a cigarette. There was so much commotion in the lobby that it was impossible to pick out Ryan, but suddenly I noticed a younger man in a blue business suit walking toward us. "Hello, I'm Detective Ryan. Thank you for coming. Would you follow me?" We walked down the long hallway until we came to a door. Ryan opened it and asked us to step inside and take a seat. Oh my God. Larry Creep was sitting before me, and I noticed I had to pee. Detective Ryan began by thanking my father for coming down on a Sunday. Then he explained that Larry's mother had reported some wedding rings stolen from their house.
What? You have a mother, Larry?
I screamed inside my brain. The detective explained that Larry's mother was cleaning out her dresser and noticed that 2 heirloom rings were gone, so she called us. After looking at the evidence, Detective Ryan had decided it wasn't a break-in because the locks were not shimmied, and there wasn't any broken window glass. He asked Larry Creep if anyone had been around while his mother was at work, and Creep said, "No."
Good.
I thought. Now I could say I was never there, and we could all go home and I could play some baseball. I interviewed Creep's neighbors, and one said they had seen the paperboy at Creep's house early one morning. The neighbor picked Jimmy out of the class pictures from St. Albee, and here we are. Detective Ryan turned to me. "Jimmy, did you take the rings?" I tried to talk, but my mouth was so dry that nothing came out. Ryan asked again, "Jimmy, did you take the rings?" I looked up at my father's eyes and knew what to say.
Nope.
"Were you ever in the house?"
Nope.
Detective Ryan looked through me and then at Creep. "By looking at the two of you, I'd say you know each other."
Nope, nope, and nope.
I thought to myself. He turned to my father. "We have another problem, sir. Creep's neighbor said he thought Creep may be a real creep. So I asked around the station about Mr. Creep." The door flew open, and in walked another, older detective. Detective Ryan introduced him as Detective Spears and said it was Spears' day off, but he wanted to come in because he felt it was necessary.
Uh-oh.
I thought to myself. "I learned from Detective Spears that Larry Creep may be a child molester," Ryan said. My heart was racing, and I must have been white as a ghost. I looked over at my father, and his face was pale. Detective Spears asked, "Jimmy, did Creep fondle you?"
Nope.
"Did he do it?"
Nope.
"It's all right to admit it," Spears said. "There's no way!" Dad broke in. "No way, man!" Spears turned to Larry Creep and said, "Is it true? Did you touch him?" No," Larry Creep stuttered. My father kept repeatedly saying, "No way! No way!" "You should have waited for me," Spears said. "Jimmy has already said he wasn't there and has already lied." And then turned back to me. "Jimmy, please tell us the truth. Don't worry about the rings. Mr. Heaney, calm down and please listen. Your son was assaulted, and if he admits it, we can put Larry Creep in a sick cell and get some help for your son." "My son doesn't need help." "We can give him a lie detector test, with your consent, of course, and we will find out." My father began to stutter, and I couldn't bear it and shouted over everyone.
Why don't you leave my dad alone and do something for poor Miss Hope on Harper Avenue? She can't garden because of the pimp at the Castaways Motel. There are hookers everywhere.
The room suddenly became hushed, and everyone was staring at me. "A lie detector will not be necessary, Detective." "May we leave now?" "Yes, but here's my card if you change your mind." As soon as we got back in the car, my father said, "That's it, Jimmy. We're through." He was looking ahead and not at me. "I knew a guy." His voice trailed off. Then he cleared his throat. "And he ended up a queer. You've always reminded me of him." I nodded, relieved that we were through at the police station and happy that the detectives would help Miss Hope. It wasn't until we were almost home that I realized that what he meant by "we're through" was not about visiting the police station. He was talking about us. And I felt a nuclear eruption and wanted to torture and kill him.